Good evening, and welcome to another edition of LIVRESQ Empower Your Teaching. I'm Raluca, and I'm your host. I'm very excited to be here to talk about something I really love talking about, which is quizzes in LIVRESQ. Quizzes are very customizable, and we have a lot of options for them. We've done previous webinars. I would like to focus this one on offering customized feedback, and also to talk a little bit more on about what options you have for scoring and how scoring works in an LMS or outside an LMS. I won't go into too much detail about the basics of quizzes. If you need more information on that, you can either ask me if you're here on Zoom, or if you're watching a recording of this, or if you're watching me live on Facebook. I follow all of the comments and all of the text boxes, so you can drop me a line, or you can turn on your microphone and just ask me if you need more basic information. But we're just going to mainly cover how it works when you want to give feedback and when you want to add scoring options to your quizzes. So what I've done in the project that I'm about to share is add a simple quiz. I haven't done anything else to it. And in order to edit this quiz, I will double click anywhere on the quiz. Again, some of the basics, you can choose between multiple types of quizzes. The most important setting to perform on a quiz in LIVRESQ, however, is to set its purpose from the very beginning. There are two possible purposes: learning, assessment, and survey. I know I said I'm not going to give you too much about the basics, but this is very important when it comes to both feedback and scoring. Because if you understand how these three purposes work, or what the platform does with these three purposes, then everything becomes much more clear, sorry. So in learning quizzes, let's just say I have a question here, and then I have three options. One correct answer, incorrect answer, and then maybe I have another, I'll just duplicate this one and I'll have another incorrect answer. I will very quickly untoggle this because only one of my answers is correct. And when I'm on learning, if I go into view mode, you'll notice that if I click any of the incorrect answers, the platform gives me instant feedback. I don't get any written feedback at the moment, but I get instant feedback telling me whether my answer is correct or not. So essentially, the platform is waiting for me to learn. I'm being given multiple chances. It is not scored in any way. This is a learning quiz, so no scoring on the learning quiz. When I reach the correct answer, then it gives me the instant feedback that the answer is correct. And I can move on to the next question, or I can move on to the next piece of content. And this is learning. If you look on the right-hand side under properties, we don't have any additional options for scoring. You can do multiple things like shuffle the items in case you have multiple questions inside the same quiz. You can show the reset button, add different thresholds, but it's not about scoring. So this is my learning single multiple choice actually answer with only one correct option. If I want to give the learner more information when they select a certain answer, for instance, if they select one of my incorrect answers and I want to offer them some feedback, offering further explanation about why that answer might not be correct, all I have to do is hover my mouse over the answer. I have these options, three options actually. You've seen me duplicate the answer. You can also remove the option, sorry, or you can write feedback for it. If I click on feedback, then I get this little box where I can use to write feedback. Explanation about why it's not correct. And then maybe if I want to be extra, and I can add the same thing, and obviously another explanation. I'll just copy paste this for the other incorrect option. But maybe I also want to tell him good choice or good job. And then if I go into view mode, now whenever I select one of my incorrect answers, the platform pops up this little question mark that I can hover my mouse over and that can offer me further explanation. So it's not something that appears right up for the learner. It's something that they have the option to discover. If they ignore this question mark, then it's not, they're not going to see the feedback. Most of the times, however, when you see something pop up, you want to see what it's about, and you might need further explanation. So this works both as an accessibility option, a further explanation option. If I click on the correct answer, then I get the feedback, good choice, and I can move on. In terms of the instant feedback that the platform gives me, because I'm still on learning, it works in the exact same way. Because I've further added feedback for each of my options, then I also get this little question mark offering the feedback that I've just created. So this was learning. Typically, we use quizzes in learning inside courses as interactive bits of content. We use them to help the learners learn, to help explain different concepts, to help add interactivity to their courses. When we want to assess learners, then things change a little bit. I just change the purpose to assessment. Configuration looks the same, but when I go into view mode, I can see that I now have this little button that's called verify. I can change the text on it under labels if I wanted to say check, for instance. I can write whatever I want for each button. So maybe check my answer works for me. And then I don't get instant feedback whenever I select an option, this button activates, because right now I'm assessing the learner, so I'm waiting for them to decide on an answer based on the knowledge that they've gained during the course, and then I'm going to tell them whether it's correct or not. So if I click on check my answer, I still get this little feedback. I have the option to try again, but I got the feedback only after I finished answering that the answer is incorrect. Now, scoring works in an LMS or with some items inside a course that I use in the LIVRESQ library, for instance, but it is designed to work in an LMS. If I want to have a score at the end of a course, I need to check this option over here where I tell the platform to use this in scoring, and it will automatically count the answer in the final score for that course. I can also add multiple questions to a quiz. I can duplicate this, but the entire quiz will be used in scoring. So right now, whatever answers I give, because I'm in assessment, they will be used in scoring. It also makes sense now that I can set a threshold. Setting a threshold means that if I want to set a passing grade for my quiz, I have two questions. Maybe I need the learner to get at least one correct in order to move on. So I can say 50% here. When they reach 50%, I can write a message for them saying, congrats, you can move on. Move on to the next chapter, for instance, and then I can link the next chapter here. You can establish links between different sections in LIVRESQ. We have previous webinars. We're going to go through it again if you need to. So I can add a link to this that can follow a bookmark that's in some other place in my course. So I can send them to the next chapter, or I can send them to a certificate, for instance, which also works. Right now, what happens is if I get my first answers incorrect, and then if my next answer is correct, then I get 50% and I get to move on to the next chapter. I can also limit the number of attempts. So I can give my learner second, third chances, or I can just limit the number of attempts and tell them that, listen, you've tried twice. There's no way you can try again. You've just failed. So this is the option to limit the number of attempts. If my assessment is not particularly serious, if I don't want to use it in a score or I want to give the learner the answer, I can also click on the show the self button, and then I have the opportunity to, or the learner can press and hold here to see the correct answer. showing the reset button, we'll just add another reset button over here. So scoring works for assessment quizzes where all the answers that you use in a scoring quiz will count towards the final answer. It doesn't make much sense to use scoring or to use thresholds for learning quizzes because in learning quizzes, the platform waits for me to find the correct answer. So I will eventually find it to move on. There's no way I cannot not find it. So, I mean, there are different types of quizzes, but I'll have to get it in the end. The purpose is not to assess me. The purpose is to help me learn, and that's the key difference between these quizzes. All of this progress is saved in an LMS. I did mention that sometimes scoring works within items that can be used inside of my courses. And what I mean by that is that the file, the score, will automatically save the score and it can show it, for instance, on a certificate. If I have the certificate that also contains the variable course score, I can go into view mode. I can answer correctly for the first one, incorrect answer for the second one, and now my score, which is 50 out of 100, will show on my diploma. If you publish in the LIVRESQ library, that's not an LMS, so you won't have access to all the answers, but the certificate will still reveal what score the student that has seen the lesson like that has obtained. And that's how it generally works. So feedback can be given, and you've seen that I have the same feedback that I've added previously. You can give feedback for each type of for each option. You can write feedback for students to offer more explanations or to give them a message when they select something, regardless of purpose. But for scoring, you need to be on assessment because that's what actually makes sense. Now there's a third purpose that's called survey, and this only works in an LMS because you need to get the results of your surveys. So you need to export LIVRESQ as a SCORM file and then integrate it in an LMS and get these reports. That's not possible in the LIVRESQ library. But right now there are no correct answers anymore. I can still offer the little messages, they will appear instantaneously, and then I can just continue and finish to send the answers. So in terms of surveys, we have no correct or incorrect answers. It's just a means to collect information from learners. This was mainly what I wanted to cover tonight. If there are, again, any questions, if you've watched a recording of this, or if you're watching us live and you're here and you want to ask me a question, now's your chance. If you're, again, either on YouTube or on Facebook watching a recording of this, leave your comments down below and we'll get back to you with the answer. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I was really excited to explain these details about quizzes to you. If you have anything that you'd like to see in future meetings, please let us know again in the comments. And I'll see you back here in 2 weeks' time on Thursday. We've moved actually. This is a very important piece of news. We've moved this meeting to 6:30 CET, Central Eastern Time. It will always be at 6:30 from now on. So we'll see you here in 2 weeks' time at 6:30 on Thursday. Have a great night, everybody.